these eyes cry every night. I didn't realize that you were laughing, and it was too late. She's come undone. American woman, stay away from me. No sugar tonight, but coffee. No sugar tonight.
Hi, I'm Art Fein. It's Little Art's Poker Party coming to you from Canada. I mean, from Hollywood, on a beautiful day in 1989. We got some regular guys and a very special guest. Regular guy number one, it's Todd Everett. Todd?
If I'm not a regular guy, I'd just like to know who
You know,
is.
the three of you lined up there kind of look like dating game.
Yeah, Bachelor number two.
You have been on.
Twice.
Twice. Do they still run?
I don't think so.
Yeah. You won a date, didn't you?
I won one and I lost one.
With your powers of persuasion.
Yes.
Good. Well, I hope you're that good today. Next to him, we got Gene Scalati. Gene,
Hi,
it's good to see you again, man.
Thank you. Good to be here.
You just writ something in California Magazine, didn't
That's
you?
right, February issue of California Magazine.
And you wrote something about an absurd, exaggerated nightclub.
Yeah, about the trendy nightclub scene in Los Angeles. That's right.
I read that thing halfway through before figuring out that it was a joke. I will have to say that it's so close to what the Herald Examiner, for one, writes in their society column, and
I'm hip, yeah.
you know, various assorted other people do the same sort of thing. What sort of response did you get from that?
The same thing. Like, my mother believed the whole thing.
Great.
And so did a lot of other people.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. Next to him, we got Ken Barnes. Ken? Ken's from Radio and Records, aren't you?
True.
And a great record collector, and just generally a great guy.
Well, it's a charming tribute.
Nice to see you.
Something like that.
Okay, next guy, first time in, we got Burton Cummings. Burton, it's a thrill to have you here.
Thank you, Art.
It's great for you to come down. We're all Burton Cummings and Guess Who fans, so we want to get about a jillion questions in. So you guys just jump in when you feel like it, because I'll probably just run my mouth off a lot. You were in the Guess Who?
Yes.
The Guess Who?
For about 10 years. I was there from '66, early '66 till late '75. I sang all the records, wrote most of the songs.
You know, you're very democratic on the covers, I might add. In this one, you're one of the guys, one of the five guys.
Wearing a flannel shirt. He's a
Wearing
regular
a flannel
guy.
shirt, like Fogerty, who I think there are some similarities to. And then on this cover, you can't even see you. You're in the dark.
I'm over here having a big toke of a Rothmans or Export A or something
Is that
like
right?
that. Yeah.
Well, these are the compilation albums. Of course, I bought many of the whole albums when they came out. Now, the Guess Who also did Shakin' All Over.
Yes, that was before I was in the band. The lead singer at that time was Chad Allen. They had a fairly big hit with that, but never really followed it up. That was '65, I believe, 1965 in the United States.
But it was essentially the same band without you?
Yes, it was just Peterson was there on drums, Cale was there on bass, Bachman was there on guitar, and then the piano player and lead singer left, and I joined because I did both. And I sang that for years later, but it wasn't me on the record. It was Chad Allen.
Why did the piano player and lead singer leave?
Various problems. They really didn't like rock and roll as a source to make a living, I guess, and they wanted to go back to school and have something a little more formidable.
I mean, as opposed to going off on their solo career. Boy, we had this big hit.
This was nothing to do with that. This was just they wanted to go back to school. This was way back in the middle '60s.
And when did the group break up? Mid-'70s?
Officially, I think it was 75, fall of 1975. I had done 15 or 16 albums with the band. We sold about 30 million records. We played all over the world. There'll be a great book someday from me about it all. It's just about what I've seen, you know. I lived 50 lifetimes before I was 25 years old.
How big was the Guess Who, other than the United States and Canada, where you were a really international act?
Australia, we did extremely well. We toured over there a couple times. Australia, New Zealand. We toured Japan once to unbelievable receptions. Actually, every time we went into American Woman in Japan, we literally got mobbed on stage to where the band had to stop playing until the stage was cleared off.
You don't hear that about Japanese audiences much either.
Well, but that was way back. I don't think in 1971, 72, when we were over there, there had been that much American rock and roll, or British rock, or any kind of rock and roll had gone over. Not too much. This is, 16, 17 years ago. But it was fun.
Well, speaking of all the hits, which there were many, don't you think you're kind of overlooked, considering the power of the band? It's not as revered. Let's say, I don't know, was Creedence that much bigger than the Guess Who?
Probably yes. I think on an international level.
But on an American level.
I think it's right to say it's one of the most underrated bands,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
There's a bunch like that.
Remember, Creedence was from the Bay Area, which gave it a certain hipness, a little cachet of that, which I don't think you can get from Winnipeg.
Well,
Because you guys, when they say were you a '60s band? No. Well, yes, but you're on
Kind
the
of.
cusp.
We were
there.
on the cusp, exactly. These Eyes and Laughing and Undone came out in '69, and No Time kind of was late '69, early '70s. So we were kind of into the '60s and '70s. I remember the '60s well and was kind of a part of it because we had worked so long during the '60s
Yeah,
without
right.
any public success, you know. But we were playing Kinks songs and Zombie songs and even Dave Clark 5 and all that British stuff for a long time before we were doing solely original stuff.
Well, what was the first American hit other than Shakin' All Over?
These Eyes.
So how long was it between the time you joined the group and These Eyes?
About 3 bad, bleak, lean years.
I didn't realize that.
3 horrendous years where I thought I had made the mistake of a lifetime.
Were you releasing records in Canada at the
Yes,
time?
we were that whole time. We had 15 singles, I think, 12 to 15 singles that I sang before These Eyes, between '66 and '69. A lot of back-to-back failure.
Buffalo Springfield songs and all
Yes,
kinds
we
of
did
stuff.
Flying on the Ground is Wrong.
Right,
This
yeah.
man knows his
Wow.
stuff. We went to
Right.
England in 1967. We were stuck in England without enough money to fly home to Canada. And I was about 18 or 19 at the time. And it was wonderful going to the Bag of Nails and having brown beers with Bill Wyman. But we didn't have enough money to go home to Canada. I'd walk down the street and see Paul Jones, and Brian Jones was still alive then, I believe, or maybe not. But it was that whole Carnaby Street era. To be in England at that time was very exciting. The first time I ever heard Strawberry Fields was in a club in London on some huge stereo system with that slow down thing in the record, and it was exciting to be over there at that time.
Yeah, I'll bet.
It was a once in a lifetime experience.
Is any of that stuff still available at These Eyes?
Some, yes, in Canada.
You can still find budget albums with a lot of American budget albums. About 6 different labels put out stuff
Yeah.
like Pretty Blue Eyes. And
Scepter has a lot of them.
Yeah.
Scepter had a lot of them, and I think Randy Bachman has bought some of the masters now and plans to put out some kind of CD in Canada of the early. So Clock on the Wall and
which is a classic.
Flying
yeah.
on the Ground, you know.
What about this one? Ken brought in this one. It's a pretty good one. That
The Devrons! Where did you find that? Wow!
Absolutely.
She's my lover! I was about 15 or 16, I think, when we did this.
She's my lover.
Wow!
I want her back again.
Lost Love! Farmer John, this is after I had left.
Oh, yeah.
But
I was wondering
that's
about that,
unbelievable
yeah.
that you have these. I'm very impressed.
does it say?
In fact, I found She's Your Lover in
It
L.A.
says on here,
too.
it actually has my name listed as a writing credit. I'm very impressed. That's unbelievable. Yeah, Julie.
It's a neat record, too.
Holy.
That's what Rio is. I wonder what that label was. I've got
Rio,
Chanel
yeah.
or something on that.
Yeah, Rio was part of the quality chain. I guess what they did was lease
Quality.
mostly
The
leased
Beaumarks,
master.
right?
Yes,
Right.
Yeah,
yes.
Beaumarks.
And
Do you have that
Dale
album?
Shannon
Do you have the Beaumarks album?
with Clap Your Hands and
Yeah.
Babyface.
It's really tough. I mean, it's
Yeah,
really
it is
live
hard
on
to
the
have.
Cock Door. That's very,
Really?
very good live. Yes,
Beaumarks live,
very,
huh?
very rare.
They are
Yeah, I'll bet.
expensive, yeah.
Yeah. I think the Beaumarks got reissued though.
So,
where I got
so
it.
you made 2 records with the Devrons? or?
Two singles. 1965, they were cut. We recorded the first one at a radio station. We snuck in overnight, did 4 cuts, and 2 of them ended up on that single. Then we went to Minneapolis and cut Lost Love and Feel All Right and a couple other things that disappeared. Didn't really sell a lot, but it was enough to get us on the radio, and I was still in high school at this point. I was still going to St. John's High, so to have a record on the radio while I was still in school was really status with a capital S. I'm
Absolutely.
telling you. I would walk down the halls and heads would turn and he's on the radio. So that was, to me, that was probably one of the biggest thrills ever, you know.
Hey, they still do, you know? Heads turn all the time. And also because of the Guess Who, then there's the solo career with Stan Tall and some other things on what was it?
Portrait.
Portrait, yeah.
The first Portrait.
As a matter of fact, yes, I have the distinction of being the guy that launched Portrait Records. Cyndi Lauper owes me her soul, her life.
I see. Not to mention Billy Vera, wasn't he? Oh no, that was Alpha. Sorry.
That was
Yes,
Alpha.
that was Alpha.
Yeah. Okay.
Separate set of
And then
circumstances.
what we didn't bring in was the movie called
Melanie.
Melanie.
Gene Scalati had never heard that I had done a movie.
Wow.
Thanks a lot.
I'm sorry.
My old pal who wrote great stuff about me all the time in the 70s
So
for
did I.
Cream magazine.
I wrote stuff in the Variety for you.
I apologize.
Yeah.
What was the other movie?
But at
Was it
least you
Voices?
knew about the movie.
Yeah,
This
right.
is the point I'm making.
Yeah.
That he didn't even know that I had
Well,
done
we
a
want-
film.
Well, he doesn't watch
You said
his
you can still
cable
buy it
enough.
today, right? Or
I'm a
can I-
Stanislavskian thespian.
Apparently.
Yes,
Heard
you
stories.
can get the film.
Yeah.
It's called Melanie. It starred Glynis O'Connor, Paul Sorvino, myself, and Don Johnson, actually.
And it's from 80?
We filmed it in 80. It was released about 1981 or early 82, and it did extremely well in Canada at the box office and has done very well on cable in the States. They've run it on and Movie Channel several times.
And you are the star, the central character.
I'm the male lead, yeah.
Yeah, Z ran it.
Play a...
A lot.
It was on Z.
It actually, in the earlier days of cable, was really constantly run.
That's really
It's
interesting.
hit a lot.
And wrote all the songs for it too. It was in retrospect, I'm really thrilled that I got to do it because I'm not an actor and I'm not about to move to New York and study for 20 years and then get parts for 60-year-olds. But it was. I think everybody should get to star in one major film and see themselves on a 60-foot screen.
Time to.
Did you do other ones too, or is that it?
No, I was being considered for the Bobby Darin story, but by then I was too old. And I think if it ever got made, from what I heard, Scott Baio was going to play the part. See, it's easier to make a young guy look old than it is to make an older guy look young. I was too old to play him coming up, doing Splish Splash and stuff. I still, if that thing ever happens, I still may get the post-sync gig to do the.
'Cause you're a big Darin
to do the
fan.
singing. I know every breath and every nuance of everything he ever did.
right?
So I would like to have done that, but you can't have everything.
So let's talk about Orly for a second. Did you get stuck at the airport there? or what
Orly,
was the deal?
yes, I did.
But there's another credence thing. He got stuck in Lodi. You got stuck at Orly. 4 letters. O-I. I mean,
Sure,
there's a
there's-
parallel
It's an
there.
astonishing
conspiracy.
coincidence. Yeah.
Well, let me ask
Did you ever have a secretary named Lincoln?
So then let's talk about the White House. Now you told me.
A star-studded story. How's that for alliteration? Yes. We played the White House, the Guess Who.
What
The
year?
band played in 1970. It was the Nixon administration. One of the reasons we were asked was that the guests of honor were Prince Charles and his sister, Princess Anne. So it was Tricia and Julie and David Eisenhower and the Nixon clan, as it were. Prince Charles, Princess Anne, and a bunch of snobs, I guess.
yeah.
You know, a bunch of
Those guys,
upper aristocracy folks. The heir to the Learjet fortune, and I believe Billy Graham's daughter was
So
there.
who wanted you?
I think what it was really, and this is true, at midnight, pinwheels went off. One was the American flag and one was the British flag. I think we were there as token Commonwealthers, to tell you the truth. And this was a very, very auspicious occasion. I think Gary Puckett performed that night too with some Marine band, marching band. And the thing I would mention is that it did have it left a strange taste in my mouth. All the guests were white. All the guys in full military aid everyone was white except the people serving the food. And everyone serving the food was black. And this was, because of the way the White House is sculptured and landscaped and stuff, you would have maybe thought that you were back in Alabama 100 years ago. And it did leave a rather bad taste in our mouths.
But American Woman wasn't out yet, was it?
Yes, it was.
Wasn't? They had you at the White House?
And we were actually asked not to perform it. That-
That's like one of those Lenny
So they did
Bernstein-
listen to the lyrics.
It's like one of those
yeah.
Lenny Bernstein parties where you invite the Black Panthers
A
over.
fine tribute to
A
American
radical
womanhood.
But that
Yeah.
song, I Hate America, bring them over.
Yeah.
So, one second, excuse me, but Ken Barnes is the expert on every type of record. There never was an answer song like Canadian Man, was there?
I don't think there'd really be a market for it.
There might have been. I mean, things like that came out.
There's still time. Somebody could do one.
Could be.
I think you should do it, Gene.
So did you guys follow? You must have followed the Turtles into the White House. I imagine they preceded you there.
Maybe they were there a bit earlier. I think by 1970 I don't think they were in
Yeah,
the
they were-
top 5 anymore, but
They were about broken up.
yeah.
Oh, right,
I think
they were-
Howard and Mark went on, for a while afterwards, but I think Chuck and the rest of the guys in the band had left by then.
Yeah.
So what about this political compromise then? What were you doing? American women. Oh, y'all come to the White House.
We were asked not to do that. We sang Hand-Me-Down World, which in our own little way was kind of the same thing, I guess, but just without the country being named. It was
Right.
it was like you know, the planet is screwed. So okay, as opposed to just America, this one's about the whole planet. It was. I tell you, I wouldn't trade the experience. In retrospect, it was probably a stupid thing to do career-wise, but I enjoy the fact that I've been there and I got taken right through the White House and saw all the paintings and got the sense of that crazy feeling of power there in Washington. It was really nuts.
Well, I always enjoyed the politics, even when I didn't understand them. I mean, Gene and I used to enjoy, like, for example, what did we play a little of a second ago? Where'd You Get the Gun, Boy?
Rain Dance.
Rain Dance.
Yeah.
I sort of enjoyed the sort of irate manner of it. I didn't know what you were mad about. I mean, I used to enjoy that in
it
the
just
shows,
sounds
too.
great.
It's kind
I
of
don't
furious during the live shows, and he's mad, that's great. You know, I don't know what the heck.
It was around the time I had written a song called Guns, 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 too. This was back in the early 70s when there were no metal detectors at airports. You could still fly. The hunters used to come up, 20 and 30 at a time. They'd get on the airplane and they'd all check their rifles at the front door. It was like there was enough guns to start a bloody war at the beginning of these at the front of these commercial flights, you know, and it really used to tick me off. So I was very anti-guns for a long time. You know, now that I live in LA, of course, maybe my view has changed a bit. But back then, I just didn't like the idea of all these American guys dressed like Elmer Fudd with these big elephant guns coming up to kill our ducks and our deer. You know, I said, well, you've blown all your own away. Now I guess you want to start on ours. And that was really my attitude, and that's why I wrote Guns. And Rain Dance was just, it all revolved around that one phrase, where'd you get the gun, John? Mm-hmm. Just anti-gun stuff.
Why do you live in Los Angeles?
I moved here originally in the 70s to learn how to produce my own records, to make better records, and I'm a firm believer that this is where trends start for musicians. All the latest technology, the minute Japan invents it, I believe they send it to Los Angeles. I've seen all the latest samplers here first. I've seen all the latest software for computers here first. I'm a big Lakers fan, huge NBA fan. I think the radio here is also the best in the world for what it offers you scanning the dial. I can just sit with a pair of earphones and scan the FM dial for hours at a time and hear everything I want to hear. Best radio, the weather is great. I'm a basketball fan, I like the television, and it is quote unquote laid back. I hate when people say that, but it is true. So in January, you can go to the store with no socks on. I like LA very much.
What's your position on Gretzky?
I don't follow hockey anymore. I could care less.
Well, I take it you were still hugely popular in Canada. And
Who, Wayne was?
no, you.
Oh, I do okay up there, yeah.
Does anybody up there look at you as a turncoat or anything for not living there? Taking their money?
Once in a while they take some cheap shots, you know, but I made no bones about it. Why I moved here up there on television and radio dozens and dozens of times I said that I was moving here to learn. You know, I grew up in Winnipeg, and once I reached a certain stage in Winnipeg, there was no one to teach me anything anymore. Whereas LA, there's no such thing as the king of the heap. There's always someone that knows more or has done more. So you can't help but learn here unless you're a complete vegetable.
Let's see, what was I going to say? David Bowie, you had Glamour Boy out on RCA, which was fairly pointedly at David, which I was going, good, I like this is fun. What was it, for $35,000 you can look like your sister tonight?
Yes.
And some real neat lyrics, but that didn't have the effect. I mean, he continued, and then guess who broke up?
Yeah.
Darn!
You remember his album called Aladdin Sane with the lightning bolt on the forehead? We had our manager, who was very huge at the time, rather hirsute and semi-obese, and we had a body stocking made the same and put the lightning bolt
It's a
on
great
his.
ad. Yeah.
What you saw was actually the revision of it. We actually copied Bowie exactly and had Hunter's hair dyed red and everything with the lightning bolt. We found out that the guy had a patent on the lightning bolt on his forehead, and this was stopped by the RCA hierarchy. We couldn't release it, so we had to redesign it with that yellow sunburst thing and change the whole. I mean, the guy actually went to the point of copywriting the idea of the lightning bolt on your head.
Yeah, now he's not using it. We'd all like to use it.
Well, it was a pointed
it may have
reference.
lapsed.
I felt very threatened by the glam rock situation. We were a very unpretentious band, I always thought. We wore the same clothes during the day that we did that night on stage. We never wore makeup. the music was what mattered, period. To hell with the presentation, to hell with the visual, you know. This was before videos, when everyone had to look like Simon Le Bon. And we just cared about music, period. So really, we felt very threatened when the Stones, I think, really were the first ones that I recall using makeup. Around the mid-60s, Jumpin' Jack Flash time, I saw some video with, they had taken a page out of the book of 2001, remember? The gang in 2001 with the makeup.
Clockwork Orange.
Pardon me, yes, Clockwork Orange. And I think that's really where it all started. We felt very threatened, so I wrote that kind of as my little statement against what I didn't like.
Yeah. Well, what about your position in RCA? You got in there after the Jefferson Airplane. You started having hits. For a time, you must have been the biggest, one of the biggest. Do you know if you did better than, let's say, the Airplane? Because your singles were so big. Well, the Airplane were big. You saying
No,
they did
I
better?
think you had many more hit singles.
We had more hit singles. In 1970, we sold more singles than any band in the world. So that was really quite a year. 1970, we sold a pile of records and made an awful lot of money.
How was your contract, by the way? Was that fair?
It wasn't the greatest, but it was okay, considering that very few people knew about royalty rates.
Was
and
it more
stuff.
than 5%?
Oh God, no. Back then,
No.
Back then, no. But it was reasonable, considering that we were from Winnipeg. I mean, getting anything at all if you're from Winnipeg was great.
If you were black, they just would have kept it.
That's right.
Yeah, they just wouldn't have given it to you.
That's right. No one knew about publishing until I think well into the 70s. First person I ever recall that had his publishing from day one was Elton John. And that's why he's one of the wealthiest people in rock and roll, because he and Bernie had it all from day one. Can you imagine being on the radio for 20 years and having all the airplay money? No wonder he's got rocks in his ears that are the size of your fist. You know? I mean, that's talking a few shekels there. Serious business.
He also wears diamond earrings, I think.
Is there video on you guys? You must have done.
There's some, yes. It's starting to show up now. I saw one for Undone that I just got a copy of about a month ago, shot up at the Griffith Observatory. And I'm playing the flute solo by this huge telescope, and like there's a 100-foot drop there, and we had some nymphette running through the frame with flowing gowns and stuff. I had forgotten doing this completely, you know, and I have a pretty good memory, but this one escaped me. And Gary Peterson was sick at the time, and he couldn't play drums for the video, and it was all shot in film, 1969. And I got this sent to me about a month ago. I was astounded. I had totally forgotten. Yeah, there's some, there are all the, there are about 4 or 5 that RCA paid for that were way before videos were being done. There's one for These Eyes, there's 2 for Laughing, one for Undone, I believe there's one for No Time, and there's many for American Woman.
Yeah. Is there concerts, performance?
Very little. I've hardly ever seen any. There's one that was shot in Winnipeg in black and white on a bad system, but it was the good Guess Who. It was Kurt and Donnie and Bill Wallace. I would love to get that because it was the best band of all.
I remember seeing you guys at Anaheim. Did we go to
Yes,
that one
we did.
together?
With
We all went.
Aerosmith.
We all
Many
went
times.
there?
Yeah.
Who was on
Many
the show
times.
too?
Aerosmith.
No, yeah, I think
I
that's the
didn't
one I
stay.
saw. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I didn't see him open.
Yeah.
But then you used to like put on
Yeah,
Ray
Aerosmith
Charles
opened,
glasses and
yeah.
do funny piano stuff. and
I
then-
used to play theme. I would be playing like for 8 or 10,000 people, and I'd play Stump the Audience. It was stupid stuff. I'd play the Leave It to Beaver theme, and the first person that would yell it out could come back later. And I'm this stupid Father Knows Best theme, and I tried to stump people with television show themes. This was at a rock and roll show.
Yeah.
It was very silly. I guess I always thought I was at a nightclub or something. I don't know.
And you also had a TV show that you did. Was it an hour-long special where you did a lot of imitations and stuff like that?
It was called My Own Way to Rock, and we shot that in the summer of '83, same summer of the Guess Who reunion that was filmed. I played about 7 or 8 characters. It was a 90-minute special.
Where is it? It ran
It
commercially
ran on
TV?
On. It showed on On. They still show it every once in a while. It ran about 6 months ago again. It was interesting to do because I had the SCTV makeup crew, and they literally turned me into whoever I wanted. I had
They
the
can
day we
do
did
it,
Fats
yeah.
Domino. We did Fats Domino. I had to be in the makeup chair at 5:30 a.m. and we didn't even roll cameras till about 2 in the afternoon. It took 6 or 7 hours to become Fats Domino.
I remember it was amazing. I
They
wanted to
rebuilt cheekbones and noses and heads, and I mean, they are really amazing, those people. So not only, I mean, producer and I picked about 30 voices that I could do fairly well. Then we had to pare that down to the 6 or 7 that would be the most interesting visually. So I ended up doing Gene Pitney, Johnny Mathis, Roy Orbison, Fats Domino.
Did you do Darren?
No, did Elvis and Rodney Dangerfield and somebody else, and I played the host of a show, somewhat like this, and I also played all the guests. So we did this split screen stuff, so we had to do all the Burton stuff first to make sure we were done, and then we triple checked to make sure we were done, then off came the mustache, and
Wow.
I was turned into these other people. So it was kind of interesting.
What I saw of it was great, so that's not available. You say it pops up on TV now and then.
No, it was never released as something you could buy, but they still run it from time to time.
Early in his singer-songwriter career, as opposed to just when he's writing songs, Randy Newman used to do 2 other people's songs in his set. He did, I think it was Blue Monday, as a matter of fact, a Fats Domino song, in any case, a Fats Domino song, and he did You Better Move On. And you hear Randy Newman do these songs, all of a sudden you say, my God, that's where Randy Newman's coming from, particularly Fats Domino.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a huge influence on Randy Newman, which might not have been that obvious, at least it hadn't been to me up until
I
is
love
there, is there
Fats.
anything like that for you? I mean, any key to Burton Cummings that might not be a Burton Cummings?
Well, I've recorded a couple of Bobby Darin. I was a big Bobby Darin fan. I recorded a couple of things. I recorded a song called Wait by the Water, which was a single by Bobby Darin. You would know, and you might know, but the average public guy wouldn't know.
Is that Adco?
It was Capitol.
Oh,
It
Yeah,
was
that's right,
shortly
it was,
after 18 Yellow Roses and Treat My
Right,
Baby
when he
Good.
was getting into that folk bag with
Yeah.
McGuinn and stuff.
Well, Wait by the Water is a real soulful thing, and he wrote it, and it was a big piano thing, so I recorded that. I loved Bobby Darin very much. I also loved Fats Domino and Little Richard, particularly because they were piano players that sang, you know, and I think Fats Domino drew me into it more than anyone. Those
Were you a
records
piano
are
player
still so
before you
great.
were rock and roll?
Yeah, I took classical lessons from the time I was about 5. So by the time I was 13, I could play anything on the radio. And it gave me status at school, you know. I could play Runaway by Del Shannon, I could do the solo, I could do Kokomo doing Asia Minor, and Bumble Boogie
Wow.
by B. Bumble, and I could do all this in grade 7 or grade 8. So immediately, guys would go, hey, wow, you know, do that again. So I found out very early that it was a way to get attention. By the way, I was on the dating game too.
Were you?
Yes.
The American?
Yeah. We got to open the show lip syncing Undone. And I lost. I got a nice Seiko watch, which is still at home somewhere. And,
Speaking
I
of
think
stuff,
I
you,
got a Seiko watch.
They can go out together.
speaking of stuff you brought from home, let me.
Oh.
You got that Batman T-shirt on. You brought your
yes,
Pride.
well, this is 50th anniversary of Batman, but these never leave my house. So I just want you to know
Tilt them down
what an auspicious,
so they don't flare up.
yes, down like
Yeah,
this.
right. Yeah.
This,
So what do you got there?
This is Batman number 2.
Uh-huh.
This is from 1940.
Don't go up.
Oh, pardon me, I'm
Stay
sorry.
down, yeah.
Summer of 1940. This is a number 2.
Uh-huh.
And this, of course, is Batman number 3 from the fall of 1940. There are only probably a couple hundred of these in the world. In this kind of shape, I don't know if you'd ever see a number 2 like this.
So this is where your money has gone.
A lot of it has gone into my comic book collection.
Another reason to live in LA. There's a lot
Well,
of comic
that's
book
true.
stores.
For a comic book collector, this is Mecca. Mecca! It is.
Well, of course, those showing us number 2 and number 3, of course, begs the question.
I don't have a number 1 yet. I'm looking for one. But you can, I mean, they start about 15 grand and go up from there. Not that that's out of the question if I could find a really good one, but there just aren't any around.
Wow.
The Deveron's record might go for 30.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
have you seen his Deveron's record on auction lists?
That's where I got one of them.
Really?
Yeah, the other one I found in Santa Monica, which was very strange. But
I'm quite flattered. I didn't know that.
You know, we're talking over the exit. We're in the egress. We're in the egress right now.